Shalom and welcome once again to Pearls of the Torah. I'm Moreh Matan, Pastor Matt McEwen, and I'm always glad to be with you and share in the Torah portion of the week. This week, our Torah portion is Parashat Nasso, and it's located in the book of Numbers, chapter 4, verse 21, through chapter 7, verse 89. It's one of the single largest Torah portions in all of the Torah, and it includes a variety of topics, such as the duties of the Levitical families, the laws concerning the sotah, or the suspected adulteress, the Nazirite vow, and the priestly blessing. This Torah portion is rich in rituals and laws and provides us significant insights when we view it through a Messianic Jewish lens. Here we will enter into our commentary of Nasso, but before we do, let us recite the traditional blessing for studying the Torah as we do every week. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with his commandments and has commanded us to be engrossed or to be in the business of the Torah. Number one, the duties of the Levitical families. From a traditional Jewish perspective, we have a continuation of the census of the Levites. And this focuses this week on the Gershonites and the Merarites and their specific responsibilities concerning the tabernacle's transport. We see this in Numbers chapter 4, starting at verse 21. Rashi and other commentators highlight how each family's duties were tailored to their capacity and their resources. This reflects a divine balance in service assignments. We must remember that God is just and that He knows what He's doing. His way is better than ours. He sees what we don't see. And we need to remember this when we are complaining about our job, as I was mentioning last week. From a Messianic Jewish perspective, Yeshua's teachings on service, where each is given a work according to their abilities, we see this, of course, in Matthew 25, 14 through 30, with the parable of the talents. This mirrors this principle of giving people a mission based on their ability, based on their capacity. Believers are given different gifts and roles within the body, as we mentioned last week. We see this in 1 Corinthians 12. This emphasizes the importance of each member's unique contribution to God's kingdom. And we remember what Paul says to us. Not every part of the body is an eye. Not every part of the body is an ear. We need our limbs and our senses. We need our extremities. And we need not only the external things that we see, like our eyes, our nose, our mouth, our ears, but also our hearts. We need things that are on the inside as well. Paul mentions that certain parts of our bodies get more publicity. They're more public, and others are more private or modest. Each one of us needs to accept the responsibility that God has given us and not complain about our mission. Each of us has a unique contribution to make to the ministry and to the kingdom. Number two, the law of the sotah, or the suspicion of adultery. From a traditional Jewish perspective, Numbers 5, 11 through 31 describes the ritual for a woman that is suspected of adultery. The sotah ritual is seen as a divine process to restore family peace and protect the accused woman if she is innocent. The Talmud discusses this process in great detail, emphasizing its role in maintaining marital fidelity. We see this in Tractate Sotah 2a. Now, it's important to know that when we study the commentaries of our Jewish sages, we get more detail on this ceremony. Because it would seem to us from a plain meaning of the text that any person, any man, could say they suspect their wife of being unfaithful. However, this ceremony of the sotah was only conducted if a woman was seen going behind closed doors with a man she is not married to, and then she is warned about that, and she does it again. So there is reason to suspect infidelity. Why would a married woman need to go behind a closed door with a man she is not married to? Remember, we are told to avoid even the appearance of evil. We need to conduct ourselves in such a way that we are above accusation and above reproach. So if the wife has been warned, don't close the door behind you and be meeting in private with a man that's not your husband. She's been warned, and then she does it again. Then we could have a suspicion. There must be a reason that she is privately meeting with this man. This is not proper. This is not kosher behavior. And so we need to make sure if she has been faithful. And that's where this ceremony comes in. Of course, you know about the bitter waters that she must drink and the horrible things that happen to her if she is guilty. And if she has been unfaithful, it's not expressly spelled out in the Torah, but it is in the oral commentary that the same thing that happens to the woman is the same thing that will happen to the man she was unfaithful with. The punishment goes for both of them, we are told in the commentaries. From a Messianic Jewish perspective, Yeshua directly addresses issues of marital fidelity and justice, emphasizing mercy and the importance of eternal or internal purity. We see this in Matthew chapter 5. He intervenes in the case of a woman accused of adultery, not by invoking the ritual test, but by challenging her accusers and offering her forgiveness and a call to sin no more. We see this in John chapter 8, verses 3 through 11. Number 3, the Nazirite vow. From a traditional Jewish perspective, this Nazirite vow, found in Numbers chapter 6, involves abstaining from wine, avoiding contact with the dead, and not cutting one's hair, symbolizing a period of intense spiritual dedication. In the Mishnah, in Tractate Nazir, it provides us with extensive details on the laws governing Nazirites. Now, there are some people, like Samson, for instance, that was a Nazirite from birth and was all his life. That was a vow, that was a lifetime vow based on what his parents were told. There are people who would do a temporary Nazirite vow. We see the Apostle Paul doing this. As he came into a certain city, his vow was up, and so he had his hair cut and he made the appropriate offerings. So it's not something that had to be for one's whole life. It also was for a temporary case. In a Messianic Jewish insight, Paul discusses vows and, as I just mentioned, appears to partake in a Nazirite vow himself in Acts 18. We see also Acts chapter 21, verses 23 through 26. This shows a continuity in Jewish practice. It shows that there's not this difference between what we could call the Old Testament and the New Testament. We have a continuation. The vow represents a life that is wholly devoted to God, reflecting Yeshua's call for total commitment to the kingdom. Number 4, the priestly blessing. The priestly blessing is in Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27, and it's one of the most profound liturgical texts in all of Judaism. It is used to invoke God's protection and favor. This blessing has been preserved both in the synagogue and in home rituals where we pray over our children, for instance, emphasizing God's desire to bless His people. From a Messianic Jewish perspective, this blessing points to Yeshua, our great high priest, who not only blesses His people, but intercedes for them continuously. We, of course, see this in Hebrews chapter 7, verse 25. His ministry fulfills and extends the priestly role of bringing divine blessing and offering peace that surpasses understanding, as we see in Philippians 4:7. This, of course, this priestly blessing comes along with some physical movement. As you know, the high priest would give this blessing by extending his hands over the people, and he would even make a certain sign with his hands, shaping them in the form of the letter Shin. The letter Shin is a very important letter. It's the first letter in the word Shalom. It's also the first in the word Shaddai. Shaddai. So when the priest would bless the people, there was a physical action that accompanied it. The priestly blessing is still done today, as we've mentioned, in homes and in the synagogue service. If there is a Kohen available, then he will do the blessing. If there's not a Kohen available, we try to see if there's a Levite available. And if not, we at least like to see if there is a son of Israel, if there is a Jew there present. It just so happens that our Rosh Yeshiva, Rabbi Shapira, is a Levite. Number 5, offerings from the leaders. From a traditional Jewish perspective, number 7 details the offerings brought by the leaders of each tribe at the dedication of the tabernacle. This emphasizes the importance of leadership in worship and communal dedication to God. We that are leaders, we need our people to be able to follow our example in worship. They need to see us model what worship looks like. They need to have something to look up to. From a Messianic Jewish perspective, this collective leadership in worship can be seen in the early community of Yeshua believers, where leaders played key roles in guiding worship and communal life. We see this, of course, in Acts chapter 2. Yeshua teaches that true leadership is grounded in service, not in being served, but serving. In service. We see this in Mark chapter 10, and this is a principle that these tribal leaders exemplify through their offerings. And finally, number 6, the dedication of the tabernacle. From a traditional Jewish perspective, the detailed description of each tribe's offerings for the tabernacle, this underscores the importance of individual and communal contributions to sacred space, a theme extensively discussed in Jewish writings like the Talmud and the Midrash. Remember, the faith of Judaism is the faith of a people, of a nation. It's a communal faith, not just an individual faith. Now, we must have an individual faith, but we also have to remember this is the faith of a group, of a people, of a nation. Now, From a Messianic Jewish perspective, Yeshua speaks of his body as the temple. We see this in John 2. And the New Testament describes believers as the temple of the Holy Spirit. We see this in 1 Corinthians chapter 6. This spiritualizes the concept of the tabernacle, emphasizing that each believer contributes to the holiness and function of the spiritual community. Because remember, as we've already said today, since the temple does not stand, the only temple or tabernacle we have is a spiritual one. In conclusion, the Torah portion of Nasso provides a profound exploration of community organization, personal dedication, and the role of leadership and ritual in maintaining spiritual integrity. From a Messianic Jewish perspective, these themes are seen as foundational, not only to understanding the function of ancient Israel, but also in illuminating the ongoing work of Yeshua in establishing a kingdom characterized by holiness, service, and divine presence. We have a responsibility. We are establishing a kingdom. We're making straight the path for the coming king. And remember what this means from a Jewish perspective. To make straight the path means to remove the obstacles, to remove the stones that are in the way. The Bible tells us to heap them up. Take the stones from the highway and heap them up on the side so that this highway can be built and the king can enter and use the highway. We have a job to do. We're not supposed to just wait around for Messiah to come and for him to do everything. We see in this Torah portion and in the one last week that we each have a responsibility to the whole, to the group. All Israel is accountable to another. This is a famous belief in Judaism. We have this concept of arevut. I am a guarantor for you, and you are a guarantor for me. We look out for one another, and we pick up where others leave off. We pick up others when they fall. This is the responsibility. This is the concept of Judaism. Thank you once again for joining me this week, and I pray that this has been a blessing to you. If you've not done so already, please subscribe to this channel and share this video so that many people can be blessed by it. We are seeing tremendous numbers on our YouTube channels. The gospel is going out in a Jewish way, and thousands of people are being blessed, and you are a part of that. So thank you very much for watching us each week, and thank you for subscribing, liking the videos, and sharing them. May God's richest blessings be applied to you and your family, and I say to you, Shalom and Kol Tuv. All the best.